Hey YouTube, the reason why I'm shooting this video is to talk to you guys more about hanging around the wrong places. Nowadays just going to work sometimes is hanging around the wrong places. I was always once told that the writing's on the wall. I remember going into this place and seeing a picture of Marilyn Monroe with the soldier, and kind of disturbed me because it questioned the integrity of the place itself, because that type of writing on the wall makes me wonder the business direction in which it's going. But I always make sure that when planning to work for a company, that I let them know that the only thing I do is work and do manual labor, or the job title in which I was called to do, and no extra. Because a lot of jobs that you work for, the writing isn't on the wall, but there's a lot of things going on, if you catch my drift. And although we look at portraits and maybe question the integrity of the establishment, you still have to question, is that really what that writing on the wall actually means, or do it mean something totally different? To each its own. At this time of days, people want to hang out at strip clubs. I've never been to a strip club. I never visited a strip club ever. I was always conservative of myself not to visit strip clubs. Did have a lot of wild parties though, but even that, I questioned my thought process at the time in which I was engaging in house parties and hanging out and doing like block parties, and that type of stuff, skipping school, doing crazy stuff. Just I questioned the lifestyle that I chose for myself, or the direction in which I was going, because when I look back and I think about all that was done and everything, I realized that a lot of those people didn't have my best interests at heart. I don't even think they had their own best interests at heart. Growing up, you start to mature. And when you mature, you realize certain places ain't for you. Sometimes even going to church and going to a religious establishments, some of them places ain't for you, because certain stuff going on in the churches, just like you at the nightclub. No pun intended, but it's honesty. Certain places, certain churches are manipulating or orchestrating the downfall of young women, men, and where they want to see them to go. So that's that part that isn't as flamboyant or visible as we may we may not ever see that part of certain religious establishments, but it's there. You see young women who you know was in the church, who would never be out of the church, being used in inappropriate ways, being pretty much taken out of their element. And when I say taken out of their element, they're being used by women and men for sexual purposes, and things that they shouldn't be used for. It's hardening of a person's heart to look at the world and feel that there is no hope for it. You know, I can only imagine being a creator of something and just looking at it and saying to myself, I question, is it hope for it? The other day I was so angry with God. I was like, you want me to forgive my enemy, but I can't. You say these are my children, and I say either you choose the one that's doing right, or else you lose the one that's doing right. And you can have that which is wrong. Realizing that all my past mistakes came from the forgiveness of my enemies that kept betraying me. And for someone to continue to ask for forgiveness only to betray a person again and again, I can't do it. See, because there's no way that the God in me would allow it. So when I started to wake up to the realization that a lot of things that was being presented to our people and being shown to our people, telling us to forgive our enemies so that our enemies can have access to us and betray us again, was wrong teachings. If I don't socialize in certain areas or socialize with certain people, and I don't go certain places, I don't want you around me ever. Because your life is different from mine. I remember the Black Panthers saying, look, we need our own schools for these children so that we can teach them more education-wise. I'm not a Black Panther, but what I will say, we definitely do need schools where these children can grow and flourish in a safe environment. Certain places and certain schools, certain places are not safe for our children. You know, at this point, even teachers are now teaching online virtually to eradicate some of the issues that plague our children, plague us, and take us through constantly. I advise people not to go to certain places. I don't go to bars. That's another one. I don't drink, I don't smoke. But realizing that that was a lifestyle that I used to live in, it's easy to get entrapped back into it. Where I was drinking, I was smoking, man, I was some serious, man. But that's not something that I choose to do. See, I opened up an entity one time, and the entity taught me that my decisions and my choices will affect me longevity. It's not just that moment effect that happens, it affects me longevity. And that's the hardest thing to have to wake up to, because little small decisions you make today may cost you way more than what it was worth. Dating, anything. So I have to be very conservative. When I say conservative, I have to be careful where I go, who I shop with. For certain places, I realize when you're shopping certain people, are there trying to prevent your progress or stop you, or think that because you're pushing the cart that you can't visibly see their image, that you don't know that it's them, because you have been blinded to a certain degree. And these same people are sometimes connected to people that you cared for, families that their family members or people that you cared for, but they're taking advantage of you, and they think that there's no consequence to it because you really didn't see me, but you saw them. And this is sometimes the things that take place. With everything going on, I cannot say that the people that riot against this is any less of a patriot than a U.S. soldier. With everything that's going on today, fighting against certain injustices, um, making sure that you are in the right place. It's never easy. You hear the story of political soldiers that pretty much have been incarcerated their whole lives. And you say, well, what was the issue? They must be one in the right place. They must be one doing the right things. And truth be told, those political soldiers was doing more of the right thing than the wrong thing. So when I caution you guys to be careful where you go, and definitely be careful what you do, it's only to warn you that a lot of this stuff that's taking place isn't for you. When you can hear a person flamboyantly say, I don't like you because you are a Negro or a nigger, or because to us your black skin does not matter. And when you wake up and you realize that there are white as well as African Americans that are in a state of decay and what you would call a nigger. But yet and still no one has woke up to it. We look at the Jim Crow laws or the court laws that was against the corporations themselves and against the advancement of the African American culture, people, against the advancement of us all. And know that even today in present day time, we are still suffering. And this was 2, sometimes 5 and 6 decades, or have been decades ago, and still have not been avenged. I remember young boys being picked up because they were driving in their cars and thrown into jail. And there were no jail registrations back then. You would have to go to the jail to actually find them. And now seeing that same type of behavior now happen with the mental health institution, and question, is it really law abiding what's taking place? Is it really the norm? Because it has been going on for decades. So it has been accepted as the norm among a culture. When you look at the barbaric behavior of Rome, and Rome building pretty much a place for gladiators and individuals to fight and to war to the death, and a lot of those people were involuntarily involved, did not choose that stature for themselves, but it was the norm and it was accepted. would that place actually be a good place to be? Or have we become so naive to the norm, or so ignorant to the norm, that we accept things that are injustices? I remember writing to the senator asking for registration for the mental health hospitals and for hospitals, because those places are now places where bodies are being held and people are being held without their permission, without regards to life, and being abused. There is so much going on. We look at people that was lynched back in the days and say, this will never happen. But guess what? The moment people open corporations, it is happening in blinded states of mind, and with people, it's still happening. And we can't say you're in the wrong place, because they're in their rightful place. They have rights to travel. They have rights to visit establishments. They have certain rights to certain things, but nowadays, these establishments in which you feel that you have rights to, you really don't, because they don't want you there. You are eating sometimes food that is contaminated by others that don't even want you using that type of establishment. And the establishment actually funds the poverty people, food pantries and all. It's hard to sit up there and tell you you're in the wrong place when you haven't visited the wrong place. It's hard to tell you, hey, don't go to the strip club, when just going to the store, you can fall into the same entrapment that you would fall into if you were to visit a strip club. So all I will urge you all to do is just to be careful and be wise in decision making.